That was cool.
It was very dramatic music.
Yeah, I was anticipating us going live. Welcome to Developers, otherwise known as Devx5. My name is Ian Jennings, and this is Chris Chinchilla.
Hello.
And every other week in this podcast, we take a look at some kind of new tech, new API. Let me mute my notifications really fast. New tech, new APIs, new tools, things like that in the developer world. We get started with them. We talk about developer experience and see how it's going to shape this future of software.
This time round is the turn of something slightly different. When I asked a couple of months ago for examples of good developer experience, a few came up, and this was one of them at Tailwind CSS, tailwindcss.com. And it's going to be a little interesting here because, as with many of these sorts of general purpose tools, developer experience can kind of vary quite wildly, but I guess we'll get started with the basic onboarding and we'll try and create something. I think you had an idea, didn't you, Ian?
Yeah, so I have a new side project I'm making, which I'll talk more about soon, and I'm getting to the point where I need a landing page. So I thought it would be fun to see if we can whip something up really quickly here within the hour with Tailwind. Do you have any previous experience with Tailwind, Chris?
No, but I do with CSS. I actually even wrote a book on responsive web design.
You wrote a book on web design
a few years ago. It's probably horrendously out of date by now. And I also did a video course. I used to do a lot with CSS in the past, but even when I was last doing it, things like grids and flex view were quite new and not fully supported, and now they're kind of more largely supported. But I've actually been doing HTML. When I first did HTML was back in 98, 99, HTML3. I don't think CSS even existed. And when I first started using CSS, I love these kind of things where you can basically have like a style. It's a style, like you can do it in Word and InDesign, all these things too, where you can define something and then change it in one place and everything updates.
Yeah.
So when CSS emerged, this to me was amazing. And of course, CSS has probably gone well and beyond any of those kind of inspirations for styles, I guess. So yeah, I'm interested to see and how it kind of ties into the wider ecosystem and why you'd use it over Bootstrap and all the other options. So
I think it's good to point out the history. Like me too, I started in CSS2 and HTML4, I would guess, because it was after you, but it was before 5. And I did layouts with tables and images, and you had to have little corner images to make things stretch. And I've made a CSS framework myself too. So yeah. So I'm interested. I'm really the biggest thing for me about Tailwind is I'm surprised that it has a shot at dethroning Bootstrap and being a for-profit tool.
Is it though? That's where I'm a little unclear. I'm not sure. It's very nicely presented, but as far as I can tell, it's all open source, I think.
Tailwind has made, it says, Tailwind has made quite a bit of money.
Must be on donations, I guess.
It says $2 million in revenue from Tailwind UI. I think what it is there's essentially a base package that's like the framework, and then there are components that are pre-made that are for sale.
Okay. Oh yeah, now I see it right down the bottom. Yeah. Well, it's not very heavily pushed, which is.
I think it's part of the art. I'm really impressed, that they're really balancing the free and the business. I kind of.
Sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say I didn't expect the business stuff to come into this podcast or this stream so often, but I always find myself coming back to like it's amazing that this is an open source tool and.
Yeah. You just sent me down a trip down memory lane. I was just quickly looking on archive.org because the first website I made, which was an online music fanzine, which is where I kind of got into a bunch of different things, was a website with frame sets and flashing images. So I was looking on archive.org to see if I could find it.
Well, you let me know what the band was. What was the band?
No, it was a fanzine.
Okay.
But it was actually quite popular for the time. I mean, I think we got about 5,000 views a month, which for the late 90s was quite a lot. So, but
yeah, well, back then you could just put anything on the internet and get 5,000 views because there was nothing to see. Sorry, not to wreck on your band. I'm nostalgic for the days because you'd be able to, like, if you just made a post about dogs, like a webpage about dogs, you'd just get like thousands of hits. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't think you even have a proper URL. I think it was on GeoCities. I think that also dates it.
Nice.
All right. How about you share your screen and you go through installation, and I'll install in the background and have a play around too. But I think your use case is kind of much more interesting. So let's.
Sure. So we're here on Tailwind CSS, and the first thing I liked about it was that you got the npm install up here, and we have to get started. This was kind of overwhelming for me. It really is like a sales page for a framework, which is, again, I think super interesting. But what we can see is essentially that we're looking at different ways to size things, different classes to color things, typography. It looks a lot like Bootstrap at first glance. Although from what I hear, it's maybe more extendable or a bit more designy, I guess. Like looking at these shadows, something Bootstrap wouldn't have would be the ability to do shadows at different sizes. So that's something off the bat. Tailwind is low level. It never encourages you to do the same site twice. It's tiny. Everything is responsive. I mean, I have seen a lot of sites that look similar to this, so I wonder if it's just really, really quickly penetrated the market.
It actually looks a lot like the docs for Material UI as well.
Interesting.
Which is quite possibly could be the same tool, whatever that might be. Yeah. It's possibly, I have a sneaking suspicion it is probably, from this ecosystem, it's probably Docusaurus, which is a React-based static site generator. That's my suspicion, or Next.js maybe, which we will.
I really
show actually, but yeah.
I really like this, like this. This works in your IDE and it's autocomplete. I like that as a feature and like a benefit. I think it's interesting that we're starting to see more of this kind of advertisement. Do you know what I mean? Like conversation about how this is going to fit into your developer workflow, right? It's sort of almost like a point you have to hit for every dev tool now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just jump into it. Okay, so we're going to get started, and I am not going. Let's see what try it in a browser. I would like to use my own IDE, but maybe this will be enough. Tailwind Play, an advanced online playground for Tailwind CSS. Customize your Tailwind config.js. I think I actually am going to use this sandbox for this demo. What do you think?
You go for it. I'm going down the other path and already hitting a few oddities, which we'll talk about in a minute. So
yeah, because now that I see, I didn't even expect JavaScript to be in this. So there's a Tailwind config.js, and that's okay. So when we look at Bootstrap themes, you have to actually generate you had to actually generate the themes on the web page. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's how it used to be, because you could get a custom file download. But I think here the impression I'm getting from going down the documentation path is this is very much in the Webpack Material React ecosystem, in that it's bunch of JavaScript that then generates stuff for you at the end, which makes it inherently a bit more complex. But that's also, unlike you or I, who started in the world of just some vanilla HTML and link hooks and CSS files. That's kind of the tool chain these days. So it seems excessive to someone like us, but to a standard front-end engineer these days, that is pretty normal, I think. It just feels complicated, but I think you're probably used to it if you're in this ecosystem.
I am, I still dive in and out, so I'm used to this. I just find it interesting that we've basically come to the point where this is acceptable, where when Bootstrap was released, it was, it was still like, this kind of just has to be a CSS file. We can't really have these built, it was made to be that one-line script command, this one. Like that was the power of Bootstrap,
the CDN or something like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting the build tools are almost a and even Bootstrap is recommending NPM first. Anyway, let's dive into it. The first thing I want to figure out here is how to make this rotated thing in the background, because they have it everywhere, and I want to know, because this is so hard to do usually. So let's see. You know what I'm talking about. Div class.
It's probably a combination of some animation stuff. I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's see. So it is absolute inset 0, BG gradient, 2R, from cyan to light blue, shadow large, transform, skew y6, small skew y0, small. So this is actually a responsive skew. And if I make it smaller, no. Oh, yeah. It changes. Kind of, maybe? I don't know. My first question is, why are there two, why is there this syntax of SM colon? I'm going to look that up. Tailwind, SM, small, medium, large.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's just the syntax they're using, just like Bootstrap. Instead of dashes, it's a colon. And I'm guessing instead of Bootstrap kind of takes this like approach of like, we're going to just give you a different button if it's small. I'm guessing Tailwind is actually making it conditional or something. Like everything's in a media query. Like,
it's one of these weird things. Like you said when I said earlier I wrote a book on CSS and web design. I almost feel like in those few years since I wrote that book, the whole ecosystem has just gone whoop. And now I look at it, and every time I'm on any kind of modern framework, I'm like, what?
I know. It's crazy. JavaScript goes the same way. It's like, what even is when you're using TypeScript?
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, I just feel like I don't even really know where to start anymore. And actually, that's something I'm going to come to in a second. I've been following their Getting Started guide, and that's something I'll come to in a second when I've got somewhere.
My other question here is, I don't understand how they have their own properties. That's I don't know if this is a CSS3.
I think it's probably then compiled to something else.
But this is in my browser as an actual. You see what I mean? How does Tailwind create custom properties? I'm not really going about this.
That's a very niche search, maybe.
Okay, I don't even know if I'm going to. Is it a utility, maybe? Maybe because I don't know. This is just so far beyond my CSS expertise. Okay, well,
I would probably suggest that in this particular case, I mean, with that, I'm not sure. I'm not really looking at the in-browser thing, but does it have like instead of diving into like a script kiddie, diving into the inspector, is there a summary of components or something like that you can play with? That's probably the path it wants you to go down. I haven't really gone on down that path. I'm interested to see actually what you see when you get to it. And this is the interesting thing. If you're going to have an interactive tool, but you don't really know how to use it when you get there, then there's not much point in having one. Let's see. Is it actually? You tried in the
Yeah,
browser.
yeah. I think for me, a lot of my understanding comes from how does this work, and then I'll be able to go from there. But let's let's dive into the actual demo. I'll stop trying to script kidding my way through this.
It does look like a. Let me just very quickly. Class with a colon. It must be a new syntax.
The colon is interesting. The colon is actually valid, but they have to escape it. If you look in the CSS declaration, see?
Oh, pseudo element. Oh, that's a proper one. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
Carry on.
So I know now I got you interested too.
No, I'll continue going down my path because I'm already got a small list of things to cover. So you carry down your path and talk through, and I'll toddle away on the background, and we'll see what happens.
So I'm working on this app called Replayable, and what it does is it basically records everything you do, records your screen while you work, and every time you switch apps, it actually makes a new clip. So you can see through this cast, it's created 4 clips, and you click on the clip, and it'll play it back really fast. So we can see basically, like if you're trying to say, hey, I just caught this bug, here it is, or this is what I worked on today. And so this is all local, and I'm kind of, like I mentioned, getting ready to make a landing page for it. So that's what we'll do here.
Okay.
So getting started, what I want is a template that's just a landing page. But let's look at the components and see what we can find. Hero section is probably what we want first. And I would imagine some kind of app. I imagine an app screenshot and like a download button happening here. Let's see. I don't know if I see exactly what I want. That's a big screen. This is kind of like a small app. So I think that one was close here. No, this one. Okay, let's go with this one, get the code. Whoa, pricing. Okay, that was not where I thought I was going. Wow.
You went down the components, I guess, yeah.
Oh, because I got the Tailwind UI. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, how did I get there? Oh. Sneaky. Okay, well, so do I have to make my own components now? Yes, yeah, look at that. I have to get the raw.
Flexbox and grid, spacing, margin, sizing, typography, backgrounds, borders, effects, filters, tables, transforms, interactivity, appearance.
Oh, wow.
Wow, so that's, interesting.
I'm kind of disappointed in that because, like, think about the getting started cost now. I can't just copy, I can't just copy some, like Bootstrap, you can just copy the hero stuff and you're good.
Yeah, I'm continuing down my path to find out what's going to happen. Yeah, that's generally how these companies do it with the components, extracting components. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of. I must admit, I'm kind of at that point where the installation versus the building something I'm slightly confused by. But we'll see.
I think I'll try. I'm just like, I feel like I have a major setback because I thought I was just gonna, blow through this landing page by copying, pasting, and modifying components. But like, there's nothing for free here, really. Is there anything for free? Try it out.
Hero. It's generally called a hero, isn't it? So let's
have
a look at that.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. I found one.
Okay.
So on the Tailwind UI site, there's previews of the components, of some components you can use. So there is a hero I found, which we'll try to copy over.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just going to replace everything and see what happens. Oh, that worked. This looks like every website I've been to in the past 2 years. Okay, that's cool. I want to have an image. So instead of this image being in the background, I want to have a floating screenshot of my app. So let's find out where this is an Unsplash image. It is large absolute insert Y0 right 0 large width 1/2. And I'm just gonna make sure this is the right one. Yeah. This is really fun. I can't believe how this is responsive like this.
Well, that's kind of almost a necessity these days, I guess.
Well, I guess I'm speaking about with the horizontal line. So I'm imagining it's columns, and then it has a modifier on it to have this horizontal, the kind of angle, and then when it's less responsive, it breaks.
Yep.
Where would that angle be, though? I guess I don't want the angle. I want it to be floating. I just want to. Maybe if I just do this, I'll figure it more out.
There's some kind of image transform in there somewhere.
Screenshot goes here. Yeah. Oh, it's not even on that image. It's on something else. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, probably an overlay or something.
Yeah. Alrighty.
It's pretty cool, but yeah.
Yeah, it is very cool. Let's see. Inline flex text gray hypertext focus outline. Focus from to inside. So there's do you remember that conversation where people were wondering if doing this was like having the descriptive classes was better than having actual classes the way CSS was made? Do you know what I'm talking
about? Maybe. Maybe not.
So the conversation, I'm guessing this is now a 5-year-old conversation, kind of started around the bootstrap idea, was in CSS, typically you're supposed to do like, not primary button, but have it like login button, right? And then it's like background color red. Tailwind is more like button, button red or something like that. And then you're applying that to everywhere you want a red button. But the problem with this is that it's actually making every element individual. It's actually not a class. It's just kind of like an empty container that's filled with a bunch of subclasses, So if you want to change the login button everywhere, you might have actually, look at this, you might have actually pasted these 10, now you have to go find every instance where you pasted these 6 classes and maybe add your last class. And so you're losing the class ability, basically, the object-oriented style of CSS when you do this.
I think I've generally gone down the. Oh, I don't know. I think my approach is too set in Bootstrap at the moment, which I'm not sure if I was ever privy to this discussion. So
it's just the design of the way it was designed versus how, like, this is easier for people, which is why it's winning.
I think I would probably generally do like blue button and stuff like that, and then specify from there blue button login or blue button enter or something like that. That kind of suits the mentality and the lessons I learned, I guess, along the way. But I think I could kind of see your point, and I think a lot of it comes from the React component-based approach, which I also find, I must admit, React is, I think it disturbs people of a certain age, because we were taught for years and years and years that you should keep your views, your logic, and your data all separated, the old MVC model, and then React kind of shoves it all back together again, and it's like, what? We spent decades on doing this. Why? So we should change the name of this show to Two Old Men Complain.
Okay, I'm having a weird bug here where I don't understand why this is being wrapped. Like, I'm trying to put my image. I thought I had 2 columns. I'm going to start totally over because I'm dumbfounded that I don't understand. I just don't get this. Like,
Yeah, I'm kind of running into some similar issues. Let me show you how far I've got and where I found a few points of
Yeah,
confusion. I'll just come to this. So, and this I think starts to mix in with a couple of points of losing my train of thought. Of good rules for developer experience that I'm finding myself, especially in a documentation perspective. So I went down the path of going to the Getting Started guide. First, I kind of started scrolling down here and I see, and this is the nature of the beast of this ecosystem, I see, okay, you could use post-CSS. Yes, I have never heard of post-CSS.
You never heard of post-CSS. Now you're learning two things.
From tools like Sass, okay. So install with NPM, okay. Add it as a plugin. Create a config file. But then the further you go down, there's lots of things saying, well, if you're doing this, doing that. If you're using this, then you should do that. Maybe you're using Webpack, you should do this. Maybe you're using React, you should do this. And that's all very well and good, but I would generally say that with a lot of Getting Started guides, you should just say, here's what the Getting Started guide is covering.
Yeah.
It's covering these options. You can do it other ways, but we're not going to cover that right now. You can go and find those elsewhere. And that is up here with these guides at the top, but maybe that should be a little bit clearer and make this Getting Started more opinionated. Like,
yeah, that's exactly
what we're showing here.
It seems like an indecisive Getting Started page where it's like, here's all the different ways, and then by the way, at the end, here's the CDN, which you shouldn't use, but if you need to, we also included it here, even though we don't want you using it.
Well, does it actually explicitly say that?
Yeah,
yes,
look.
Okay, yeah.
A bunch
so
of
then I went down the React path, and I mean, it's interesting because I still got to this same point where I went through all these steps, and again, I mean, it's the JavaScript world. I can't really fault Tailwind for this. Install all these dependencies, install another tool I've never heard of, do a bunch of configuration, go through all this, and then I got to this, and then I open up the app, and I don't know, I'm not seeing anything. It's just a React default screen. So I haven't really seen what Tailwind is giving me yet.
Yeah.
So then I go to the next bit, and this I think is where you were discussing. So utility first, building complex components from a constrained set of primitive utilities. That sentence doesn't make entire sense to me, but so traditionally you'd use CSS. This is kind of what we were discussing, although yeah, maybe you would make it more abstract than this. Using utility classes to build custom designs without writing CSS, which, I mean, it's a slight lie. We're not writing CSS, but someone wrote CSS. I guess I can just paste this in. I'm not 100% sure. This is where my React knowledge probably gets a bit messed up because I don't think I can just...
well, you want to go in probably the app file, and then you should be able to just post. Yeah.
So I can shove this in here just as an example to see what's going to happen, hopefully.
Let's see if it works.
No, I've got an error. Interesting. Oh, ooh. Oh.
Expect the corresponding tag for image. Oh, image needs a slash.
Here. That's interesting. That is possibly an error that's worth fixing in their docs because I think that's probably pretty standard even for just HTML. Okay, so there we go. And then we get the pre-configured component. But nice. Yeah, the doc there is a little bit of a phony because it's, I mean, someone wrote the CSS. It's not like you didn't write it. You're using a framework. You know? So it's not like it appears out of nowhere. But yeah, we get the idea, and then I guess we could, I don't know, let's change some of this. So background, I'm going to hazard some guesses here that I can do things like background blue, maybe.
Wah, wah. I told you I need the soundboard.
I actually have one, but I haven't rigged it up. It requires rigging up to proper inputs.
So you couldn't do BG blue? Why not?
Absolutely not.
Try primary. Primary.
I
like that you and I, this is a show about the docs and documentation. Neither of us read the docs. You just try to But this is
well, that's the reality.
it is the reality. Yeah, I know. That is the reality. So
That's
nothing
interesting.
works.
Text
Text
red.
try gray.
Do I need to?
Are you getting errors compiled with warnings? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would really. I'm gonna do some googling.
Interesting.
I am so surprised at this.
Text red.
Font weight. Color is not text color. There's only blacks, whites, and oh, you have to use a number after the color. So text -blue -50 or -500 or something will change it.
Really? What are you looking at there? The
text
colors.
Color. Yeah. Text color.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know what the numbers mean. It's a text opacity.
This is all the JavaScript configuration again. How do I actually?
Let's see how you.
Enough JavaScript. Show me some CSS. What do I do with the CSS?
This show should be two grumpy old men talking about how things used to be.
This is kind of confusing because it's like it's CSS, but all I'm seeing is JavaScript. I want to put some CSS in.
I will give it to them. They did do something new. I still don't know if it's better, but it's definitely different.
It's definitely going down that React component type world.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But I'm still slightly unsure as to what I'm supposed to put in a standard just bit of HTML like this. Colors.indigo, you reckon? Or I don't think so. I mean, I just pulled this out of a doc, really. So let's go back to over here. I mean, it's strange that white works.
Well, oh yeah.
Oh no, but though actually it doesn't. I don't think white does work. Oh no, it is. It does. It does. Oh, it's up there. Oh no, it's black. Sorry.
I'm seeing some weird. Oh, cool. Okay, so on my screen I have. I'm not going to share it, but there's a class called block, and then there's a class called XL inline, which means.
Yeah.
You know when you write text and when you do responsive text, it's annoying because like the text like might not wrap the way you want it when it's like on mobile. You know what I'm talking about? So with this, you can actually change it from inline to block based on the media query and on the size of the screen.
Yeah, here we go. So yeah, it's with the color thing. So I guess I could do. So it's about it's quite flexible in some respects. So I could do cyan. And you know what we should do at this point as well? Well, it still didn't change it. I don't know what am I getting wrong here. It's weird. Does it only apply to? Do I have to do gray, or is it always from the JavaScript? Maybe that's the. I don't know. I tell you what, I might do. Do you want to go back to screen share? And I'm going to actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Mine's going to be any better though.
I was actually going to rig up the IDE stuff and see if that helps. So.
Okay. What I am trying to do now is I've changed the title here a little bit, and I want to make this my brand blue color, and so that will require changing the theme because this is now text indigo. Maybe I shouldn't even make it. No, let's try to change the theme and get my blue in. So my blue is that hex code, and so we'll have to find out how to config. Okay, Tailwind CSS, colors. I'm gonna look for, okay, there we go. I still don't see a way to define a custom color.
Defining a custom color is all the configuration. I have actually now figured out the color bit. I think for some strange reason that that
Okay, we go colors.
Yeah, now I've got it working. I don't know. It seems to be very specific, but I do have it working now.
So
There's
I
actually
don't.
a specific link for text color. If you scroll down to typography, unsurprisingly, read the documentation. There's a text color thing. Yeah.
I think what I'm thrown off by is they keep showing this example of like mapping colors to colors, and it's like white equals colors dot white, and I don't understand why you'd ever do this.
I think it's for a wide degree of flexibility and control. I think that's the aspect. It's weird. I haven't seen this in the color way before, but usually with boldness. So this 100, 200, 300, etc., you can do with boldness of font. So I think they've used that same concept. So you can have a teal color, and it's like a way of increasing the teal. So it's kind of like a color mixer in CSS. So it's quite nice, but I do get the feeling that there's people like you and I who just want to have a blue color and don't really care. And then there's people who probably want to match corporate branding, and they're probably going to end up just creating their own color. So I'm not really sure where it fits into those kind of two extremes.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Is like these should like, why would I map cool gray to gray? I would probably just map it to my own gray, and not your preset gray.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that despite how great these docs look, I think that they've gone a little too deep into the reference, maybe, in these kinds of things. We're like, hey, you can do this, and it's like, well, maybe like they need to delete like a quarter of what's on the docs.
Well, it's an open source project, and usually when I have been hired for documentation work, one of the first things I do is get rid of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I hate to disappoint people, but that's often what I do first.
Yeah, I think it kind of looks like that. Like it looks like an open source project because somebody was like, hey, you can use a CDN, but I really want to have the CDN reference in there, but also it needs to have like, okay, we can only do it if it has these big X's near it, and why you should do it.
I will say I've installed the Visual Studio Code extension, and it does help quite a bit, but I don't necessarily consider that a positive. Having to install an extension to give me a key is I don't know. And what if you don't use Visual Studio Code? But actually now it's starting to make things make a little bit more sense. But I think in the ecosystem that this is in, this is very much aimed at people building JavaScript applications, not just whacking on some CSS to HTML or into a static site generator or something like that. I think it makes sense, but I think maybe we've just come in on the wrong pathway,
Yeah, I think it's also made. It's made for really big projects too, where you're going to have a lot of you're going to build a whole component library. And you're maintaining this with multiple people, and you need consistency, and the colors change all the time. Like it's not really made for like let me throw up a website in 20 minutes.
Probably not. Yeah.
See this is something else bothering me right here. Okay, I can see how to define a custom color, and I did it, but there's no usage now below this to get my custom light blue color. It doesn't show me how to actually use it. And I can't tell in this online editor whether my code has even been compiled properly or at all. Okay, there we go. It is being compiled.
Error, okay. So that
yeah, exactly. Like
it's working when you get an error.
light blue. Okay. Oh no, it didn't work. Text indigo. Text. Can I do text light blue 600? Oh!
Yes, that's what I just figured out as well, yeah.
But this is my custom light blue, I think. Or no. What is blue? Why can I define, oh my gosh.
So I think from what I understand, the if you go for the one without the number, it's full on. So black is full black, white is full white, etc., etc. And then for the colors in between, it's it's a little. I don't really know how to map it to a standard kind of RGB style way of thinking. Yeah. Well, 900 is not quite maximum. So I guess 500 is halfway, and yeah, it's kind of how you work it out. With black and white, that kind of makes sense. With the mixture of colors, I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting there though. I'm getting there over here. I must admit, I still think I'm playing around with examples that are not really worthwhile playing with. To your point, but I'm getting there.
I'm giving up on customizing, and I'm just gonna see if I can use the custom colors and get more into the layout stuff. I think so. I was expecting the config to like recompile all of Tailwind, but I think the config is just making a variable I can use in CSS later. I don't think it's actually exposing it and generating styles for me.
I'm not sure in the web one. In the offline one, I'm kind of getting there now.
Oh no, it does. BG Regal colors. Oh, gosh. There's a lot of magic.
There is, and this is this whole world. Full stop. Actually,
Colors. Okay, we do colors brand blue, which means we should be able to do BG brand. Oh, there we go. Okay.
The excitement.
Yeah. That should be the tutorial. Like that should be the hello world. Like it should be the first thing. Not this like 45 installation guides.
I've messed around a bit here. I've got it.
You want to take over?
Yeah, I'll show you what I haven't done a great deal, but I'll show you. Okay, so I installed the IDE support, which I have found useful because I can kind of auto-fill to see what I'm looking for, and I also can see kind of the values here.
Yeah.
So here you can see if I getting it to fire is sometimes, I don't know. This is slightly, unless I'm missing a shortcut here.
Is this your custom yellow?
No, it's not. It's the default one, but it seems like I have to. I don't know if this is a Visual Studio Code thing or I seem to have to always kind of like start from scratch each time. So now you can see the shades here.
Oh, that's nice.
This is weird though because yellow
is now red.
It's black. It's kind of strange, but yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I managed to change the color here. You can see it changing in the background here. I think a lot of these come from a framework that seems familiar, but I can't quite remember what it is. Like this MD, so it's things like
Bootstrap.
Yeah, so it's bootstrappy. So XS, for example. Yeah, so there's next to no shadow there. MD, so I'm guessing XL. Give me a bigger shadow. Yeah, so you start to see the stuff here. I also messed around with the font down here, and I'm getting in Visual Studio Code the sort of tips on what it is. I could do XL. Yeah, so you start to see, it starts to make a sort of a sense once you get there. And then this padding things, I remember these from Bootstrap as well, so I could double that, and I guess the padding will double.
I love those. I've really fallen in love with those shortcuts.
Yeah, so that kind of thing is starting to make some sense. It's just, it takes a little bit of getting there. And I get the feeling that really, this is not much beyond what Bootstrap does, and there's more here somewhere.
Yeah, can I
cases, yeah.
take a look at my screen where I got.
Yeah, you just dropped your screen share, so
did I?
back.
Okay, here we go.
Right.
So what I was the reason I was so excited was I was able to actually get my brand color in here. So in the config, I defined it brand blue under extend colors. Yep. Then within the HTML, it's accessible through all those same shortcuts. So that to me is really, really powerful because now you're getting into like a combination of less, like a CSS preprocessor, and components, which is really this can really go a long way. So I think that it was a rough onboarding, but now I'm sold on it for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's this is always the problem we have when we hit these tools, is that we're coming in completely fresh and just learning as we go, exposing the warts and all for the projects, but also for us, not having really done any looking or research or anything like that. And also, I will reiterate yet again that this is, I think, really aimed at people coming in the big JavaScript front-end world, which to be fair is most people. I have the same issue with the company I work for. They're using Material UI for a lot of the UI design, and it's taken me a bit of time to understand how that works too. And it's in a React app, so I'm learning how to map Material UI to what I want, but also how it fits within the React component world. So it's pretty similar, I guess. And I would hazard a guess that people have made React equivalents of Tailwind and all that kind of stuff too. But I mean, it's quite, you're right, this documentation is very reference heavy. It's quite easy to kind of go in and find what you want. So for, I don't know, a transform, I can go down to transform and I can, just pull in rotate 180, I guess. Can I only do it on images? Or can I do anything? It says elements.
I am still broadcasting, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me rotate this text, for example. I mean, I'm not sure if you can rotate. I don't think you can rotate text. So
I bet you can. I bet you can. It should be generic. Like, it should be so generic that you can.
Maybe I would try it. Needs to be div then?
Right now I'm looking at this. I have some text here which looks centered. Well, it's at least justified centered, and the column, it just looks like computer language here. I'm having a real hard. It doesn't seem very natural to understand, like MT-3, SMMT-5. I guess it's only max with XL, max auto. I can't understand it just from looking at it. MT3. Oh, margin top. Oh, that's it. Okay. Max. Okay. These are just breakpoints combined with margins.
Yeah.
So MX is left and right. Oh, that's cool.
First. So I need transform first to trigger something else. So I think there we go. Not particularly useful, but looks kind of funny.
Nice. Yeah, maybe you should try a little bit less of a 180. Try like 75. So I have a funny story while you're doing this about my CSS framework. So I was hired by, I was a freelancer. It was the year 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I was hired to help a startup called, I guess I can say a name. It's Contently. Contentful? I think Contently.
Yeah, Contently is more recent, and I used to work for them. So yeah, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we work together. So I was living in New York, and I would take the train over there, and
they're based in Berlin, so it was definitely a different company. So there we go.
Yeah, okay, so they had this really fantastic designer, like one of the best designers I've ever worked with, and she would basically overlay. She'd take a Photoshop screenshot of her design and overlay it on the webpage and make sure everything had to be absolutely pixel perfect, which was it was really brutal the first time, but it was a great. It made me a great front end developer. So I actually ended up making a library for them because we wanted really consistent looks, right? And this was at the time of less than Sass, and so I actually ended up making a similar CSS framework for them, and I kind of went overboard and in the preprocessors. And so the files that were being output were like 1 to 2 megabytes of CSS.
Yep.
And this is still the time when people were supporting Internet Explorer 6.
Yeah.
So Internet Explorer 6 couldn't handle more than like 512 kilobytes of CSS. It would just it would literally crash the browser if you tried to load this framework.
Yeah.
And what we ended up doing, rather than cutting the CSS out or doing anything sane, we actually ended up splitting the output into multiple files. Like we chopped it into multiple like 256K files that were all loaded, so that the IE6 could consume this huge CSS library I made. I wonder, they do talk about the output size here. I wonder if they.
Yeah, and I just saw that because I thought I'd try this dark mode thing, and it's you need to enable it for that exact reason.
Yeah, I'm sure it's. I don't think it's as big of a problem as with IE6, but it's probably still, people want to keep it small.
It's interesting though. I don't know if you can see this. It's a little small, but I actually got a warning here that what I have attempted to do. No. Oh no, hang on. No. I got the same error, but I've done. I need to do something else. What did I?
Ooh?
Oh, dark mode to media. I see. Sorry, I just enabled true.
Oh, developers.
There we go.
It's a string though, not a
media or class. What does that mean though? A domain is enabled.
Well, you've defined it there as a variable, not a string.
Media strategy uses the preferred color scheme media feature under the hood, or you can use class manually. I'm slightly confused. I think I want class, and I'm enabling it on a class.
It needs to be a string.
Oh, I see what you mean. I wasn't reading the docs or listening to you. So. Okay, let's see if that's.
So you can have your page upside down dark mode. Media.
Media is not defined.
Maybe you have to restart your. Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to wrap up soon. Let's just try this, and then we'll do some final words. No, something is still. I guess it needs to recompile here. So, unexpected token, is that still current? No, I don't think so. Done something. Oh, here we go. There we go. Something's happening. This is going to be worth it, everybody.
Dark mode.
I hope it really is adding a lot of extra. I mean, I'm guessing it'll be quicker each time, but
it's adding all those megabytes.
All those megabytes of dark mode.
Dark mode is really difficult. If Tailwind can actually pragmatically do.
Well, no, but it's up to you. I think that's the thing.
Is it?
The design is still up to you. You can just toggle what to use. You see, which is good in some respect.
But in theory, it shouldn't be, right? Like it comes with the colors. If it comes with preset.
That's, I don't know, that's contentious. I don't know why the development server is still starting. I'm not quite sure what's. Oh, and then it just did it.
That always happens when you.
Yeah. Got impatient, and then I think still taking a long time though. Strange. Even if it was twice as big, it wasn't that big the first time.
That is pretty slow.
No, it's the same. I don't know. There we go. Fired up, but still taking a very long time to load. Don't know.
Climax of our show. Here it is.
It always
the
takes
big hurdle at the end.
What? No. Nothing's happening. Weird.
Maybe it looks like it's blocked. Like maybe it's like try pressing enter in the React terminal. In your terminal over on the left.
Oh.
Just press enter. No. Sometimes it unblocks the buffer or whatever. Weird. It just stalled.
I'm not sure what I did. I still must admit I don't entirely understand.
Okay, something happened.
Did that make any difference though? I don't know. I'm still not even sure if the color I added was it should be a real. Yeah, it is showing there. It should be. It's a very subtle difference. So
I would imagine the background would be black. Right?
Yeah, but that's a whole other thing, I think. So now in theory,
oh, you have to do the system.
Didn't really seem to do anything, so I think I haven't really fully read those instructions, but that is quite useful. I still don't entirely understand this media versus class. Let's just very, very, very quickly try that, and then I think we should probably, just because that's quite a useful feature if that does work. So now I've seen compiling. It's going to be worth it, everybody. It's going to be worth it. So whilst we're just waiting for that, let's wrap up. I'll bring that back in a second. What's your kind of thoughts in the end there?
That was a roller coaster. Like, I feel like I've seen the future and it's very complicated.
That is the summary of the current web front end experience, really. I've seen the future and it's complicated.
Yeah. I see the power in it, but I don't expect I would use it unless I got those components off for free. So I bought a theme, or there was a component library, and because I'm the person who wants to I don't care about styling every individual component. I don't have time for that. I want to drop in the components and use them. So when I use Bootstrap, I buy themes and just use the Bootstrap theme, basically use the components. If I were to work on a large project with a team where we were making custom components to maintain some kind of front-end app over the course of 2 or 3 years, this is an easy choice over Bootstrap.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. So prototyping, it's not good, but for long ongoing maintenance, it is really killer. Yeah, it's a really great tool.
Yeah. Okay, so whoops, I got too many windows open, and because I'm streaming, my CPU is a little unresponsive. So just to bring in the final demo here. So yes, this did work. So dark mode, light mode. Give it a second for everything to catch up. There we go. So that's pretty
cool. That is really cool.
So I think I kind of agree with you. I think the getting started guide should be more opinionated and just have a nice concrete build something dumb, but build something nonetheless, because people then just see how it can go together. So combine a few of the bits I can see in the various documentation pages together, just in one very opinionated
I agree.
guide. Doesn't have to be the best practice, but it's best practice that gets someone up and running with something, and they can see the power and then go further. That's all a getting started guide needs to do, you know? And then I think I agree with you. I think this is a complicated world. So, I wouldn't use it for prototyping, but if someone said to me, we want a framework for our insert JavaScript based framework application here, then I'd say take a look. The reference documentation is pretty good. Once you start to get your head around the semantics and things, it becomes easier. We spent about 20 minutes stabbing around in the dark, and then as we got it, it started to get easier. So yeah, I think that's generally the summary there. Still a little unclear. We didn't really go down the path of seeing whether the components had a free trial or anything like that to see if it was worth it. But yeah. So
yeah, I did try to look at the free components and check them out, and it did work. So I copied and pasted a free component. I think that's a big opportunity. That's one of the main reasons to use Bootstrap, is because you could just copy the list, and there's all that community, and so it's another interesting conversation about how, like, sustaining open source and supporting community, and how do you balance the two?
Exactly.
Yeah. I also imagine people make their own.
Sorry. No, sorry.
People will probably create their own components too. So I'm wondering how that will look in the future when there are more either maintained or open source component libraries. I could easily see a company or like just an open source team building a component library that's better than the one they can provide, and then that's now the go-to one over the paid. I think that
I can actually see a bunch of there's a plugins page under customizations, and I can see a bunch of things people have added there that will give you. I can see one for form styling. Ones as well. Yeah, so I think that's definitely an ecosystem, and I think that's similar in Bootstrap and many others as well. There's also a screen reader utility, they call it, as well. So there's a lot of nice options here. I think it's just getting your head around how to get started is kind of the harder bit.
Yeah.
And then it starts to make a lot more sense. So yeah. So just to wrap up, that was Tailwind, tailwindcss.com. I do apologize. I decided to keep the window open because it's quite warm, and the trains are being very loud. I don't know if it's coming through.
It hasn't come through.
Two really loud trains going past at the same time at the moment. So, tailwindcss.com. I think they have a bunch of ways you can reach out to the community as well. GitHub, Discord. That's it. And I think that's a nice wrap point. I don't think we've completely decided what we're going to do next. We were talking yesterday about some options, and we'll decide in the next week what the next episode is going to be about. But
I was thinking that we have a whole new direction for the show where we go edit the docs of open source projects and we just delete things.
I have done that on some of my other ones when it's getting small. Like, that thing just doesn't exist, that link is broken, etc., etc. I have actually done that. And I think 95% of them have been merged, which is kind of nice.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Ian, how can people stay in touch with you? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ian Jennings, and the E is a 3. My business is Haxor, HAXOR.sh, for developer experience testing. And the app I'm working on is called Replayable.io, which I'm very stoked about the name and brand and everything about that new project.
Nice.
What about you, Chris?
You can find me on chrischinchilla.com, at chrischinch on Twitter. I have a hands-on stream every week it's at 2:30 p.m. UTC. I haven't decided what I'm going to do next episode, but the last episode I did, what did I do? Docker Slim for optimizing Docker images, and that was actually pretty impressive. And the next one I'm not quite sure what I'll do yet, and a few other things you can find on my website there. So yeah,
cool.
All right, do you wanna give us the final catchphrase to end on?
That was developers, and now even I'm losing track of how many times I'm saying it. Every other week we look at new developer tools, tooling, nerdy stuff, dive in, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with an unknown project.
Subscribe, leave a comment, and
let us know what we should
episodes. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Ta-ra.